Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. There's recently been yet another conversation about video games potentially costing $100 in the future due to the upcoming release of Grand Theft Auto 6. There are a lot of people who either believe or are at least hoping that Rockstar is going to charge people $100 for GTA 6 and that this will open the door for other publishers and developers to do the same thing with their games. Now, popular streamer XQC recently spoke out about this, and it's kind of exploded the dialogue online once again. So I ignored this conversation the first time it really broke out back in, I think, January, because I kind of read it off immediately, basically feeling like only corporate shills would be in favor of this. But the reintroduction of this conversation has kind of made it clear that there's definitely a lot of different perspectives on the overall issue, and there are many people who truly are hoping that this happens and truly believe that it's going to help the gaming industry. And that makes me wonder, what does my community believe? What do you all feel about the overall situation? So I decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and make a video laying out all the details and see where folks stand. To make it clear, we are going to talk about XQC's comments. I disagree with him, but this is not really a video about him. It's certainly not about hating him. Don't harass this man, send him a bunch of messages or anything like that. He has a right to his opinion, and everybody else has a right to theirs. With that, let's go ahead and get into it. So first, let's start with the story back in January that really kind of broke things open. And this was January 19th. I'm referencing the Gamer article, and I'll leave a link in the description below. But it's really about a report by a gaming analyst who's basically said there's hope, quote unquote, in the industry that Grand Theft Auto 6 will cost $100. Now, part of the reason for that, obviously, is because of the rising development costs associated with Grand Theft Auto 6. And there's many people who believe that because of the countless studios and projects that have been shut down, a $30 increase to the price of games would significantly help to cover those costs and help save some of those studios and be a benefit to the industry overall. Obviously, GTA 6 is looking to be a massive success for Rockstar, with some analysts predicting that it'll make more than $1 billion in pre-orders alone. So most games would not be able to essentially force customers to pay $100. GTA 6 is one of the rare games where they could increase the price to this level and people would still, or at least I won't say most likely pay it, but there's certainly a large portion of people who would still be willing to pay that amount. Now, before we get into XQC's comments, let me talk a little bit about this. First and foremost, let me make it clear. I've definitely had people on my channel before who have advocated for piracy, who have advocated for, hey, a game came out and I either don't like the game or I feel like the game is overpriced, or for whatever reason, I feel justified in essentially stealing these people's content and then playing it for myself. And I've always been strongly against that. Piracy is theft. If for whatever reason you don't feel like the developer or the publisher has done enough to get your money, my perspective has always been, then don't play the game. To steal the game and then play it anyway, I personally think is wrong. And so I'm sure there's going to be some people advocating that, well, if the game is $100, I'm just going to pirate it and not be bothered. I don't agree with that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. That being said, I also strongly disagree that this massive price increase is somehow going to be a band-aid on the issues that we're seeing in the gaming industry, especially considering that oftentimes when we see these studios closing, the publisher is making money hand over fist. EA just liquidated BioWare, fired damn near all of their writers when EA is recording multi-billion-dollar profits. And BioWare is unquestionably, historically at least, a big reason for some of EA's success. So unfortunately, I feel like we're in a situation where just because the game is critically or commercially successful does not mean your studio is going to survive. We saw the same thing with Marvel Rivals. A bunch of people who helped get that game out the door just got liquidated, just got fired, and the success of Marvel Rivals did not save them. And we also have to look at the quality of the games coming out. The prices of games are significantly higher now than they were back when I bought an Xbox 360. Do I feel like consistently AAA games are at a higher level of quality than they were when I first purchased an Xbox? No. No, not in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The increase in price to cover those costs and to shovel more profits towards these publishers has not resulted in me getting better games. Games are consistently being released that are broken, missing core features, missing key content, and oftentimes the consumer is charged to get this content for the game. Even when it's clearly missing, it's not provided for free. So to me, I don't feel that publishers or frankly even developers have proven that, hey, if you shovel all this additional money towards us, we're going to give you a much better product and games are going to be significantly better than they have been in the past. I don't think there's any reason for people to believe that, but obviously there's some disagreement, so let's go ahead and go to XQC. So he reposted this meme from GTA 6 Media that said, hey, I won't buy GTA 6 for $100. And then when the person is revealed, it's my mom won't buy me GTA 6 if it's $100. Basically saying that the people complaining about this price increase are essentially children. They're just broke. They don't have a job. They're not taking care of their responsibilities. And that's why this $100 bothered them. If they were conducting themselves as real adults, this $100 wouldn't be an issue. So XQC reposted this and said, gamers will buy 5 early access releases, half-baked $140 games, and sprinkle $300 worth of skins in a year. But when a AAA company goes all out and takes their time to make the most anticipated polished product we know they can make, suddenly $100 is too much. Stop talking. So I want to talk about this because honestly, I put out a comment about it and I've seen some other people putting out comments about it, and I feel like the responses have been very interesting because they're a little bit more divided than what I would have expected. First and foremost, there are a lot of people who have convinced themselves that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be the greatest game ever released. and that because Rockstar has taken so much time to make this game, and because the trailers are very visually impressive, this game is clearly going to redefine gaming in some sort of way, right? I don't agree with that at all. And this is coming from someone who I played Vice City, I played Grand Theft Auto 4. I personally didn't like Grand Theft Auto 5. It couldn't hold my attention for more than a few hours, but I respected it. I respected the artistry of it, and I definitely feel like it deserves all the credit that it has received from what I saw, right? But to me, Grand Theft Auto games have never been, like when I list my top 10 games all time, Grand Theft Auto is nowhere in there. And I feel like it's the same way for a lot of people in the industry who play Grand Theft Auto, but do not put that in this upper echelon. Oh man, yeah, this is the game that that really defines all other games. They're just not. In fact, Grand Theft Auto has never won Game of the Year. Now, granted, there's only been one Grand Theft Auto game that could have become Game of the Year, right? Because it's so long in between releases, but it lost to Elden Ring, if I remember correctly. Like, there's no part of me that believes that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be this genre-defining. Whoa, the gaming industry is before Grand Theft Auto 6 and after Grand Theft Auto 6. I don't believe that for 1 second. There's nothing in Grand Theft Auto's history that leads me to believe that. The second problem I have with this is, we all know Grand Theft Auto is a huge money-making machine, right? So you're not just paying the upfront cost of the game. There's also going to be Grand Theft Auto Online of some sort, I'm certain. And there's going to be microtransactions that come with that game mode. If you tell me the game is going to be $100, but the online mode will have no microtransactions and it's just going to be a big online playground for everybody to jump into, maybe this conversation becomes a little bit different, but we all know that's not going to be the case. They're going to charge you potentially $100, and then on top of that, a few months later, they're going to come out with a whole brand new mode that's going to potentially suck hundreds of dollars out of people all over again. That is awful. That is awful. I don't understand how people can advocate for this. And the idea that the vast majority of gamers are running around buying $300 worth of skins per year is asinine. It's absolutely asinine. The majority of people who are purchasing games really only have enough money for one, maybe two games per year. Every single time I do a giveaway, the lines are out the door, all right? Like, people never say, oh, this game's only $60, it's only $70. I don't need a giveaway for that. I'll just buy it myself. Who cares? No. I get a whole bunch of people saying, man, I really want to play this game, but I just don't have the money for it. Really happy you're doing this. I hope that I win. It is always like that. Always like that, because games are expensive now. And the vast majority of people just do not have the resources in order to be able to buy them on a consistent basis. So to try to just paint this brush and say that, well, hey, all of us are working with $600 a year that we can just spend on games. No, that's not the case at all. And that brings me to my other really large reservation about games becoming $100. I feel like it's going to cause gamers to have a lot less money for indie games. I feel like it's going to push a larger percentage of the market towards Ubisoft, Microsoft, and a couple of other major publishers basically running everything. Because people will continue to buy Assassin's Creed. They're going $100 or not, people will buy Assassin's Creed. People will buy Madden. People will buy Call of Duty. Like, there are some titles that are just going to survive anything. I mean, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows is showing that right now. All of that controversy, all of those negative stories, you would think the game is floundering, but it's pretty obvious Assassin's Creed is going to once again be a smash success. So those games will be fine. People will continue to buy them, but that extra $30 that they used to be able to use on indie games or maybe even AA games, now that's going to dissipate. And I feel like people will end up buying less games overall. It will stifle the gaming industry, which in turn will stifle creativity. I see a lot of people saying, well, if games are $100, then I just won't buy them. And there are certainly some people who are that way, but I feel like a lot of people are not that way. A lot of people will continue to buy the games. They're just going to buy less of them. They're just only going to buy that particular title where they're like, okay, every year or every other year this game comes out, that's what I'm going to get. And all this other stuff that I used to get, no, I'm not going to bother with it. And it's going to be very destructive for the gaming industry In my opinion, I don't see the good in it. Now, to give you an idea of what's being said on the other side, I want to reference one of the people who was actually talking back and forth with me. I'm not going to show his tweet because he's not an influencer or someone who I feel like is trying to, have a public face on Twitter. He's just someone who chats back and forth with me sometimes, and we've done it enough where I know he's not a bot. He's a real person, and I think he did a good job. He's obviously on the side of people who want Grand Theft Auto 6 to be $100 and believe this would benefit the gaming industry. And I feel like his comments, his two separate comments, kind of do a good job of summarizing a lot of the comments I've seen from other people on other threads explaining why they have the same position. So the first thing he says is that he agrees the game should be $100. It's a high budget, high effort, high quality game. We've landed in this weird situation where people are okay with cheap, low effort live service games being money printers, but balk at raising price for quality AAA games and DLCs to be competitive financial investments. So I've spoken a little bit about this before. There are a lot of people who have just already decided Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be an amazing game that's worth $100. I'm not there. And I'm very curious how many of you all are there as well. And then on top of that, how many of you would be comfortable with this price tag being spread around to other developers and other publishers so that they would have, this higher ceiling that they could work with regardless of the quality of the game that they are releasing. But it's really interesting, the live service argument, right? And he talks about it a little bit more. So let me read his second comment. And I think it's fair that they raise MSRP. Ideally, we get more games taking less time, budget to develop to keep the $70 MSRP viable. But for games that need that long development time, I think it makes sense to raise prices. Gotta stay competitive with free-to-play game revenue. I don't agree. And he's not the only person who I've seen say this, that basically it's okay to raise the price of these single-player games and of these games that more of us old school gamers are into, because you've got to be able to keep up with the free to play, the mobile games, the live service games. I think that's fool's gold. I think that's absolutely fool's gold. And the fact of the matter is, the profits that come from these games, they never compare it to how much studios lose when the vast majority of these types of games flounder and fail. Games are hard to make no matter what, all right? But in my opinion, it's much easier to fail at making a live service or free-to-play game than it is at making a single-player RPG, CRPG, whatever. Like, it's easier to get your money back making these types of games. And trying to artificially increase the prices to keep up with the profits that appear to come from this other side, when again, in fact, the majority of studios who go that route lose their money. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. I think it's unfortunate instead the way publishers seem to look at this situation, where they just keep chasing after the fool's gold over and over again. Whereas you see these single player RPGs that very consistently do well and have the marginal profits that you can depend upon, but instead you're chasing the golden dragon. I just don't agree that customers should pay $30 more in order to try to make it seem like all of this is even. But again, Maybe some of you all disagree. Now, like I said before, there's definitely been some commentary from other people regarding what XQC said. So Legacy Killer responded and made clear he feels like it's an idiotic take. And I said the same thing, generalizing gamers as most who, as for the most part, being people who spend $300 on skin just doesn't make any sense. Just doesn't make any sense at all. And again, the worry with GTA 6 is more so that it creates a new precedent and every other publisher will follow suit and make $100 a new norm. I just don't want that. I don't feel like it'll be good. ACG, a game reviewer, does amazing reviews on game. Highly recommend check out his channel. He said, stop reducing all gamers to the same spending habits. Makes sense. Think before talking. It's free. Also, this is pretending that new gamers with no history also magically spent that. Knowledge isn't a magic show. You can learn it quickly. So he said that, which echoes a lot of things that I said and what Legacy Killer said. But he also had an interesting comment down here. So someone asked, this whole industry analysts say GTA 6 could cost $100 is such a blatant manufactured priming. At first, I assumed it was just someone writing an article for clicks. Now it feels like an intentional laying of the groundwork to make the price over $70. And ACG says, actually, on his podcast, I forgot the name of his podcast, but he has a really nice one that he does on a regular basis. Over 5 years ago, we discussed it for hours on the podcast. So while it may be something that's artificially being created, he feels like, in all honesty, it's a natural conversation, but not a natural agreement. Also, that would require them to all agree on something, meaning the publishers. So that's impossible. Exactly. So it's interesting to see him say that, hey, he doesn't feel like this is really a new conversation. There were already discussions about, hey, would the industry benefit from a price increase? It's just that GTA 6 is making that conversation much more real because, again, it's a game that could actually get people to fork over that kind of cash. And Rockstar might be the type of publisher who's willing to go that route. We'll see. Another interesting part of this whole discussion is if games pricing increases to $100, how does that impact other countries? There are a lot of other countries who don't trade well with the dollar. And so a major price increase like this could potentially create a situation where they're flat out unable to buy games. So Navius makes the comment and says, hey, games have been $100 in Canada for the past 5 years, which has stopped me from buying them already. This would be a $150 game, and I definitely won't be buying it on release. And so obviously that's Canada, but there are other countries which can purchase games where the price hike would be even more. So definitely something to consider. And that's the video. Overall, you all know I'm not a fan of this. I'm not in favor of it at all. But I can look and see a lot of the comments from people who are not influencers, who are not public figures, you know, so I don't want to put their names out there or anything like that. But I'm seeing a lot of comments from people who at least don't appear to be bots, who are saying that, hey, I feel like this is a good thing. And I feel like you all are overblowing it. And I believe that this is something that we should embrace because it's a high quality game. And I just don't buy it. I just don't see it. But again, I'm very, very curious how my community feels about it. And if some of you believe that at the end of the day, a $100 price increase or an increase to $100 as far as the pricing of games would be something that would be beneficial to the industry and something that we should be embracing more. Looking forward to that feedback. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you're new to the channel, here at Slanted Gaming, we focus on CRPG type content, so definitely like and subscribe. You can look at the videos that I've been doing in the past. I cover Solasta, Wrath of the Righteous, things of that nature. And there's a link for a Discord down in the description as well, in case you're looking for a community to join. See you on the next video. Take care.